Story 1. Hello everyone. My name is James and I'm 28 years old. I've been holding on to this story for a while now, trying to make sense of it, but it still keeps me up at night. Therapy hasn't helped much with the nightmares or the constant feeling that someone's watching me in the dark. This all happened back in June of 2023, when I was flat broke and staring down the barrel of losing my house. I needed a job, any job, and that's how I ended up working the night shift as a security guard at Walmart. If you've ever pulled an overnight in a place like that, you know how the emptiness can play tricks on your mind. But what happened to me, it was no trick. It started simple enough. I was walking home one evening, the sun dipping low, when I spotted a job poster tacked to a telephone pole. Security guard wanted, night shift at Walmart, good pay, flexible hours. No frills, just what I needed. The address was for a store about 10 miles out, not the one down the block, but I figured it was worth a shot. I dusted off my old electric scooter from the basement. It was beat up, but it ran, and called a number. They asked the basics, experience, availability, that sort of thing. Next day, I rode out there, parked in a nearly empty lot, and met a woman in a suit who smiled a little too wide. She handed me off to Carson, the shift supervisor, who gave me a quick rundown. Lock the doors at midnight, patrol the aisles, keep an eye out for anything off. No security office, no cameras, just me, walking the floor. I thought, easy money. That first night, I showed up at 11 p.m., zipped up in my black security jacket. The store was massive, one of those super centers that stretch on forever. I was packed with everything from tools to toys. But after closing, with the lights dimmed and the customers gone, it felt like a different world. The fluorescent bulbs hummed overhead, buzzing like angry bees, and the AC cranked so high I could see my breath fog in the air. I locked the front doors at midnight, just like Carson said, and started my rounds. The place was dead quiet at first, except for that constant hum and the occasional creak from the shelves settling. You know how big these stores are. Miles of concrete floor, high ceilings swallowing every sound. I felt small, exposed, like I was the only soul left on earth. Around 1 a.m., I grabbed a blanket from the home goods section to wrap around myself. Figured no one would mind. I wandered the aisles, flashlight in hand, checking locks on the back doors and peeking into stockroom. That's when the unease started creeping in. I'd hear little things, a distant thud, like something falling off a shelf 2 sections over. I'd jog over, heart picking up, but find nothing. Just the building shifting. I told myself. But in that vast, empty space, every noise echoed, turning into something bigger in my head. I started imagining eyes on me, from the mannequins in apparel, or the shadows between the racks. Paranoia, right? From being alone, in a place built for crowds. By 2 a.m., the main lights flicked off on a timer, leaving just the emergency ones casting long, sickly glows. My phone signal was spotty inside, so no scrolling to kill time. I settled on a display bed and furniture, trying to relax, but the cold seeped through and the silence pressed in. Then came the footsteps. Soft at first, like someone shuffling down the next aisle. I froze, listening. They stopped, started again, closer. I called out, "Hello? Carson?" No answer. I got up, flashlight sweeping, and rounded the corner. Empty. But I swear I saw a shadow dart away at the end of the row. This went on for hours. Footsteps, thuds, even what sounded like whispering from the electronics section. I radioed Carson. Nothing. My mind raced. Was it a prank? A homeless guy who'd slipped in before closing? Or just my imagination cracking under the isolation? I patrolled faster, sticking to walls, but the store felt like a maze, twisting back on itself. Around 4 a.m., I heard a door slam in the back, the stockroom. I crept over, heart pounding in my ears, and pushed it open. Pitch black inside, shelves towering like walls in a tomb. I flicked my light around, boxes, pallets, nothing out of place. But then, a scrape like metal on concrete. I backed out, slammed the door, and barricaded with a cart. Screw this. I muttered, heading for front. That's when I saw him. A figure at the end of the main aisle, just standing there under the dim light. Tall, hooded, not moving. I yelled, "Hey!" Store's closed. He turned and bolted toward the garden center. I gave chase, adrenaline surging, weaving through lawnmowers and plants. Cornered him by the exit door, pushed it open, but it was chained from outside. He spun around, face hidden in shadow, and lunged. We grappled. He was strong, reeking of sweat and desperation. I managed to shove him off, grabbed a shovel from display, and swung wild. Connected with his arm, he yelped and ran back into the store. I didn't follow. I hid in the bathroom, door locked, shaking until dawn. Morning came. Lights buzzed back on. Carson showed up, unlocked the doors. I told him everything, the noises, the intruder. He looked at me funny, said no one else reported issues, but he'd checked the tapes. There were no tapes, remember? No cameras. I quit on the spot, rode home, and never went back. But here's the twist that still chills me. A week later, I read in the local news about a string of break-ins at that Walmart. Turned out it was an inside job, some employee letting in accomplices after hours to steal stock. Carson got arrested. Makes me wonder, was that figure one of them? Or was Carson testing me, seeing if I'd scare easy? Either way, that night in the endless aisles broke something in me. If you're thinking about a night shift gig, think twice. The real horror is in ghosts. It's the darkness you can't see coming. Story 2. If you've ever worked retail, especially a closing shift at a place like Walmart, you know how those empty aisles can mess with your head. The fluorescent lights, the endless rows of stuff, the dead silence. It's a different world after midnight. But what happened to me during my time as a home and garden associate at a Walmart in Columbus, Ohio, back in July 2022, wasn't just my mind playing tricks. It was real, and it's why I'll never work a night shift again. I was fresh out of college, drowning in student loans, and took a job at the Walmart on Georgesville Road. It's one of those massive supercenters, groceries, electronics, apparel, you name it, sprawled across what feels like a football field. My role was simple: help customers stock shelves, set up displays, and clean up after closing at 11 p.m. The shifts ran from 4 p.m. to 11:30 p.m., that extra half hour for tidying up the chaos customers leave behind. The first week was fine, boring, mostly. People asking where the patio cushions were. Kids knocking over planters, nothing I couldn't handle. But about 2 weeks in, things got weird. It started with a customer. This guy, mid-40s, greasy hair, wearing a stained jacket, came up to me one night around 10 p.m. His eyes were bloodshot, and he reeked of stale beer. "Where's the paint thinner?" he barked, swaying a little. I pointed him to aisle 12, but he just stared, like he didn't hear me. Then he leaned in close, too close, and whispered, "You're going to regret working here." Before I could respond, he shuffled off, muttering to himself. I brushed it off as some drunk being creepy, but his words stuck with me. That night, as I locked up the garden center doors, I felt like someone was watching me from the parking lot. I scanned a lot, nothing but a couple of stray carts under the streetlights. By 11:30 p.m., the store was empty except for us closers. The main lights dimmed to save power, leaving these harsh, flickering emergency lights casting long shadows. The place was freezing, the AC blasting like it was trying to turn the store into a meat locker. I was sweeping up dirt from a spilled bag of potting soil when I heard it, a low, scraping sound, like someone dragging something heavy across the floor in the next aisle. I called out, "Yo, Mike, that you?" Mike was the stocker working that night. No answer. I grabbed my flashlight, standard issue for night shifts, and checked. Nothing. Just rows of lawn chairs and grills, looking creepy in the half-light. I told myself it was the building settling, but my gut was screaming something else. Around 1 a.m., I was in the back near the stockroom, restocking mulch bags when I heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate, like someone pacing just out of sight. I froze, listening. They stopped, then started again, closer. "Mike!" I called louder. Silence. I swung my flashlight around, catching a glimpse of something, a shadow, tall and lanky, slipping behind a pallet of fertilizer. My heart kicked into overdrive. I radioed Mike, but he was on the other side of the store, unloading a truck. "Ain't me, man," he said, sounding annoyed. I wasn't alone, though I knew it. I started walking faster, sticking to main aisles, but the store felt like it was closing in, the shelves looming like walls in a maze. At 2 a.m., the real nightmare started. I was near the furniture section, where they've got these fake living room setups with couches and lamps. I heard a crash, like glass shattering, from the electronics aisle. I sprinted over, thinking someone had smashed a TV. Instead, I found a display of headphones knocked over, plastic cases scattered across the floor. No one was there, but as I bent down to clean up, I heard breathing, heavy, ragged, right behind me. I spun around, flashlight beam cutting through the dark. Nothing. Then from the corner of my eye, I saw him, the same drunk guy from earlier, standing at the end of the aisle, staring at me. His face was wrong, pale and gaunt, like he hadn't slept in weeks. He didn't move, just watched me, his head tilted at a weird angle. I backed up yelling, "Store's closed, man. Get out." He didn't flinch. Then he started walking toward me, slow and jerky, like his legs weren't working right. I bolted, weaving through aisles, my sneakers squeaking on the linoleum. I could hear him behind me, those same heavy footsteps, keeping pace no matter how fast I ran. I made it to the front, near the checkout lanes, and grabbed the phone to page security. The line was dead. I looked back, and he was gone, but the air felt thick, like something was pressing down on me. I hid in the employee break room, locking the door, my hands shaking so bad I could barely hold my flashlight. The room was small, just a table, a fridge, and a vending machine humming in the corner. I sat there, listening for any sound, my heart pounding in my ears. Then a knock, slow, deliberate on the door. "Kyle," a voice rasped, low and guttural. My blood ran cold. I hadn't told that guy my name, it was on my badge, but he'd never gotten close enough to read it. I didn't answer. The knocking got louder, faster, until it was a full-on pounding. I grabbed a chair, wedging it under the handle, and called 911 on my cell. Weak signal, but it went through. Cops showed up around 3 a.m., two of them sweeping the store with me trailing behind. We found nothing, no guy, no signs of a break-in. But the headphone display was still a mess, and one of the back doors to the stockroom was ajar. Even though I'd locked it earlier, the cops wrote it off as a prank or a vagrant who'd slipped in before closing. They left, telling me to stay sharp. I finished my shift, but I was done. I quit the next day, told my manager I couldn't handle the stress. He didn't argue. Here's the kicker. A week later, I saw a news report. That Walmart had been hit by a string of after-hours thefts. Turns out a former employee, a guy who'd been fired for drinking on the job, had been sneaking into a loose vent in the stockroom. He'd been living in the store's ceiling, crawling to the ducts at night, stealing electronics and food. The cops caught him after he fell through a ceiling tile, drunk out of his mind. That was the guy I saw. He wasn't some ghost or monster, just a desperate, unhinged man, hiding in plain sight. But knowing that doesn't make it any less terrifying. Those nights alone in that massive, empty Walmart, hearing his steps, seeing his face in the shadows, it broke me. I still check my locks twice before bed, and I'll never set foot in a Walmart after dark again. Story 3. Note, this story, while told as a chilling true event, is likely an urban legend or creepypasta that exploded in popularity during the 1990s. It spread through early internet chat rooms, late-night diner conversations, and radio call-ins, gripping listeners with its grim take on the underbelly of everyday places like Walmart. Take it as fiction rooted in the unsettling reality of retail life, but brace yourself. It's a gut punch. In the mid-90s, a Walmart supercenter in Macon, Georgia, was the kind of place where locals flocked for cheap groceries, tools, and clothes, a fluorescent-lit sprawl that felt endless under the hum of industrial AC. For Tom, a 38-year-old janitor working the closing shift, it was just a job to pay the bills. His nights ran from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m., scrubbing floors, restocking paper towels, and tackling the chaos left by shoppers. The store was a maze of towering shelves and flickering lights, and after closing, the silence was deafening, broken only by the whine of compressors or the clatter of a stray cart. One muggy August night in 1995, Tom was wrapping up around midnight, his mop sloshing to the last of the linoleum in the grocery section. The store was empty, save for a couple of stockers and electronics, their radios crackling faintly across the vast space. He dreaded the restrooms, always a gamble, with their dim tiles and stale air. Tonight, he headed for the women's room near the back by the garden center, where the overhead lights buzzed like dying insects. As he approached, a sharp, coppery stench hit him, like raw meat left out too long. He gagged, assuming a plumbing issue, and pushed open the door with his shoulder. The smell grew thicker, choking, and the single working bulb cast jagged shadows. In the last stall, he saw it, a trail of dark, sticky liquid seeping from under the door, pooling on the cracked tiles. His stomach twisted, but he forced himself to inch closer, mop clutched like a weapon. With a shaky hand, he nudged the stall open. There in the toilet was a sight that burned into his brain. A tiny newborn motionless, half submerged in blood-streaked water. Its fragile body was tangled in a knotted umbilical cord, the bowl stained red. Tom stumbled back. His mop clattered into the floor and retched into a nearby sink. His hands fumbled for his radio, but panic garbled his words as he called for the night manager, Linda. "Get here now," he choked out, voice echoing in the empty restroom. Linda, a tough woman in her 50s who'd seen it all, arrived in minutes, her face paling as she peered into the stall. She dialed 911, her voice steady but tight, while Tom slumped against the wall, trying not to look at the scene. Police flooded the store, their flashlights cutting through the dim aisles like knives. They sealed off the restroom, snapping photos and bagging evidence. Security footage revealed the culprit, a woman, maybe in her late 40s, with stringy hair and a worn jacket, caught on tape lingering near the restrooms before closing. She'd been seen earlier, wandering aimlessly, clutching her stomach like she was in pain. No one thought much of it. Walmart was a magnet for stragglers. The cops pieced it together. She'd hidden in the store until it cleared out, given birth in the stall, and drowned the baby in a moment of desperation before slipping out a side door. Fingerprints on the stall door matched nothing in their system. She was a ghost, lost the back roads of Georgia. The store shut down for 3 days, the air heavy with whispers among the staff. Tom quit the next week, unable to shake the image of that tiny body or the suffocating silence of the store at night. He moved away, but the story didn't. By the late 90s, the tale had grown legs, spreading across early internet forums and local bars. People swore they heard faint cries in that Walmart's restrooms, though Tom insisted it was just the pipes groaning. The truth was grim enough. A desperate woman, likely homeless and broken, committed an unthinkable act in a place meant for mundane errands. The Macon Walmart still stands, but old-timers warn new hires. Don't linger in the back restrooms after dark. The vast, empty aisles hold secrets, and some stains never come clean.